Drew here, bringing you a video response today from a fellow YouTuber called Woodlin37, who asked the question, can you name your 15 favourite video games on 15 systems? So I thought I'd have a go at doing that. It was, I mean, as he said on his video, it's not that hard to do when you really think about it. There was only just one or two which I've had to have a really good think about, some really difficult ones, but when you actually boil it down to it, it's most of the choices immediately popped into my head straight away. I've tried to go through the systems that I've owned in chronological order as much as I can remember, but a few of them may be a bit wrong here or there, or the other way around. Excuse me. So we'll get straight onto it. The first system is the Atari 2600. My favourite game on that one's Yars' Revenge. It was a toss-up between that and an Activision game called Pressure Cooker, which I've done a gameplay video of on my channel already. So please check that out if you want to have a look what that game's about. I haven't done one of Yars' Revenge yet, but you're basically an alien and you have to continuously destroy the alien motherships by destroying their shield and then firing missiles into the core. It's just really good. I just love the explosion of the ship every time you complete a stage. It's a simple, like, one-screen game, but it's again an example of the early days. Playability is shining through really, and it's still as playable today as it was back when it first came out, which is really good when you consider that it's probably pushing 30-year-old, more than 30-year-old. Second system, Spectrum. Now, it's a toss-up between two games. I've plumped for Target Renegade, which I have just done a recent gameplay of, but I've not actually published it to the channel yet, so keep an eye out for that. It's a two-player beat-em-up, side-scrolling beat-em-up, which was only came into existence because Melbourne House actually got hold of the Double Dragon franchise and completely destroyed it when we actually finally got to play it. But Target Renegade is just an awesome game. It's follow-up to the awesome Spectrum version of Renegade, which another YouTuber, Monkey Spaz 5000, named that as his favourite Spectrum game, and said it was better than the arcade, and it definitely was. I just think the sequel was superior to it, simply two-player for a start. But yeah, amazing game, and when I do publish the video for it, please check that out. The next system is the Amiga. This was a tricky one really, because I did have quite a lot of favourites. I really enjoyed the graphic adventures on the system, so I used to actually play them through with my dad. He was never very good at video games himself, so he liked to sit and watch and help, and those were games you could actually participate in, with them being puzzle games as such. So a lot of them were, you know, a lot of the enjoyment was that just basically due to that participation of my father in playing the games. So I'm going to go for probably not everybody's main choice, but the one I probably liked figuring out the most and playing the most with him was a game called Loom, which involved this little dude in a white cape, and they were in charge of the Loom of Fate, and I think he sneaks into the Loom room one night and does something he's not supposed to do, and tears a rift in the fabric of space-time, whatever, and he sets off on a quest to rectify his mistakes. Really, it's a really good game. It's one of the early graphical adventures, but I just loved it to pieces. Moving on to the next one, is Master System. Didn't have a Master System for very long. Actually came to the Master System party very late, probably late 80s, early 90s. I mean, the Mega Drive was already out, and I actually only owned the Master System for about 3 months. But one of the games I did get with the system was Double Dragon, and I found it to be a really, really good conversion of the game, and that's probably the game I played most on the Master System. Again, it was 2-player, and me and my mates used to just play that to death. I mean, sometimes we just rattled it off about 3 or 4 times in a row, just back to back to back. Really good conversion. I always found it better than the NES version, which decided to expand on the game and do a bit of their own, input into it. But as a straight arcade conversion, I thought the Master System did a very, very good job at Double Dragon. So then moving on, we went on to the Mega Drive. That was the next system I owned. I upgraded from a Master System to the Mega Drive pretty much straight away. Had a Japanese Mega Drive, and this is probably an obvious choice which a lot of people will maybe pick excuse me, for the Mega Drive, is Streets of Rage 2. Just absolutely loved that. I mean, I can still pick up and play that game today, and I enjoy it as much as I did then. I think it was just the best in the series, just by a slight hair. The first one was also awesome. I think just the improvement in the graphics and size of the sprites just edged number 2, and the expansion of the moveset as well. We won't mention 3 because 3 was just a complete fuck up from start to finish. I didn't know what went on with number 3 back in the day, but obviously I know all the troubled development it had and all the edits and cuts it had from the Japanese version, so you can understand why it turned out a complete shambles. But yeah, Streets of Rage 2, notable mentions to the, again, obvious, probably most people's choice, Sonic the Hedgehog 1, but Streets of Rage 2 definitely. I then, next console I owned was a Mega CD. And I've classed it as a separate system because it is. I know you need a Mega Drive to actually run it, but Mega CD, I've gone for a cyberpunk game called Snatchers. It was like a menu-driven text adventure in a way, and then there was a few action sequences thrown in throughout the game, and you was part of the agency who tracked down these robots called Snatchers. A bit like Blade Runner, if you would. The Snatchers had main weakness is that their skin couldn't stand the rays of the sun, so they developed melanoma and basically skin cancer, and the skin started disintegrating off them. It was a really good cyberpunk adventure. I've not played it in absolute ages, but I just remember the music being great, obviously with being a CD based system, and the story was very, very interesting. And it was another one that you could play through with people as well. So I played that through with my excuse me, my throat's getting really dry, with my father, and just really, really good. You should check it. You should definitely check it out if you've got availability to the system. If not, just do a few searches on YouTube, and I'm sure it'll crop up loads and loads of videos of the game. Really, really awesome. I did own a 32X, but I've not listed any games down for that because, to be honest with you, probably the one system I do regret ever buying due to the lack of games coming out for it, so I'm not going to list a game for that. But I did then pick up a SNES very late in the day. I had access to a SNES quite a lot though, so I'd played it at my mates'. And again, probably a more common choice, which a lot of people will pick. I've picked Zelda: Link to the Past. Still an awesome game, and in my opinion, probably not a lot of people's opinions, but in my opinion, it's the best Zelda game they've ever made. I'm not one for the probably controversial base. I actually don't think Ocarina of Time is that good. I know everybody says that's the best Zelda game, but I just didn't like it. I just didn't like it at all. But yeah, Link to the Past, amazing game, amazing graphics, classic Zelda tunes, and it's still playable to this day. I mean, I've owned that on the SNES, I've owned it on the Game Boy Advance. It's just absolutely amazing. Moving on to the Dreamcast I had next, I've gone for it was a Dreamcast exclusive at that time. I've gone for Resident Evil Code Veronica. That's probably my favourite Resident Evil game of the old school Resident Evil games. You know, with the tank kind of rotational controls and item system, etc. You know, moving away from the action ones that we've got with 4, 5 and 6. Again, it was the first Resident Evil game to, I think, to use real-time 3D backgrounds rather than the static backgrounds, and back then it just looked graphically awesome. I mean, it looks a bit, it's lost, it looks a bit ropey now, as they all tend to do, but the character models, the background graphics, and just the epicness of the story. I mean, it just spanned such a huge amount of area. I mean, you started off on the island, and you ended up in the Antarctic. It's one of the few Resident Evil games where you actually do go on a kind of like a global journey. Obviously, number 6 now. Yeah, number 6. Obviously, number 6 has done that now as well. But back then, it was just amazing. It was like you just explored this one big massive game area, which probably would have been big enough for the any other Resident Evil game. And then all of a sudden, you're presented with a completely new area to explore, which was just equally as big. Absolutely amazing. Then moving on to the PlayStation, this was one I had the most difficulty deciding between 2 games. Probably both of them are not have cropped into people's minds really. And this is one where I'm going to cheat actually, because I can't split these 2 games. The first one is a turn-based strategy game called Vandal Hearts. He was basically tasked with. He started off with a couple of controllable characters, and you ended up recruiting a big team of characters, various different classes, warriors, paladins, priests, archers, etc. Usual RPG staples, and you had to like advance their abilities, and you could branch them off into different skill sets. And it was basically a turn-based game where you were pitted against overwhelming odds on every single level. The story was, very, very good. The levels mixed it up as well. It wasn't just a simple case of destroying all the enemies to win. It was some levels you had to destroy, like shield generators, things like that. You had to go. Excuse me. You had to complete the maps in a certain amount of moves, or protect certain aspects on the map, certain people or physical structures on the map. It was really, really good. The other game I can't split it between is a Square game, which unfortunately didn't get a European release, so I had to import it from the US, but boy was it worth it. It was Parasite's Eve. Again, it's typical kind of Square kind of game, set in like Final Fantasy style, but rather than turn-based combat, it was kind of like action-based. It was action-based combat, but you kind of like stopped the action, and then you had like an area of effect where your moves could work in, and you chose what to do. So it's kind of like a time bar before you could attack again, and it was kind of like an action-based turn-based Japanese RPG, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Just an awesome soundtrack, awesome storyline as well, with the protagonist Eve was not protagonist. What's the word? I can't remember now. But the Eve you was actually trying to track down and destroy, taking over various parts of the town and infecting people and such. And it's just a really, really good game. Definitely worth checking out. Don't confuse it with Parasite Eve 2. So it was an alright game, but not a patch on the original. Quickly moving on, because I think I'm waffling on a bit too much about each game now. Game Boy Advance SP. Again, turn-based game, Advanced Wars 1. Still play that to this day. Gradually getting my rank down to number 1. But I go back to it every now and then and rattle through the game quite a few times. Absolutely awesome turn-based game and resource strategy management. Definitely worth a check out. Never really liked the sequels. I think the sequels added a bit too much complication to the simple gameplay of the first one, but definitely check out the first one. Moving on now to the more modern consoles, I'm going for the original Xbox. I know this wasn't an Xbox exclusive, but I've gone for Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy. It was definitely the definitive version of the game, and an absolutely beautiful game graphically, and some really good puzzle and platforming sections where you split your time between as Sphinx and the Mummy. The Mummy sections are absolutely hilarious, using his various skills of splitting himself into numerous parts to manipulate various switches, presser pads, etc. The Sphinx was more combat related and just general normal platforming, but the two parts of the game just gel together really, really well. Put together with a great visual look and a great soundtrack as well. did come out on the PlayStation and GameCube, but I think the Xbox was the definitive version of the game. Moving on now to the GameCube, Pikmin 1. Again, there's just completely unique gameplay, the kind of game only Nintendo can come up with. It's what Nintendo are good at, making their own original games, original IPs. But Pikmin 1, just the graphical style, the whole concept of it, the cuteness, the music, simple tasks, simple gameplay, done well, amazing game. Sequel, Pikmin 2 is good. Pikmin 3 I've never actually played, unfortunately, but Pikmin 1 I think just was better than number 2. I think number 2 just, I don't know, something just didn't sit quite with me. Moving on now to number 13, which is a PlayStation 2. I think this was a PlayStation exclusive. It's Ico. It's ICO. Again, nothing really like it at the time. Beautiful graphics, haunting soundtrack. But it's basically a giant escort game where you've got to protect, I think she's called Yorda, from the shadow monsters, and you have to manipulate various levers and platforms and stuff to get her across each screen or each part of the map. But just a game that's just awesome. I mean, I just spent many a time just standing there on the screen once. Sometimes, you know, just looking at the graphics. I haven't played it for a while, which I think I might play it through now. But it's definitely a game to be checked out. It was the game that came out before Shadow of the Colossus, which is also an amazing game, similar graphical style. But for me, Ico just gets it. And now moving on to the really modern consoles, we've got the PlayStation 3. I've gone for exclusives here, only if it was my favourite game on the system. Now I only had a PlayStation 3 mainly for a Blu-ray player and exclusives, so it's quite an easy choice. It's The Last of Us. I mean, I think everybody must know what this game is. It's just a masterpiece, really. I think it makes me sad I haven't got a PlayStation 4 at the moment, because I would love to see what they've done with the remastered version of it. But graphically awesome, script awesome, story awesome, gameplay awesome, just unbelievable game. I mean, Naughty Dog are probably the best developer out there at the moment. I wish they would expand to both modern consoles rather than keeping them exclusive. But I was waiting with bated breath to see what they can do with the new console, as what they got out of the PlayStation 3 was just amazing. And finally, Xbox 360, which has been my main console for the last generation. I've gone for Gears of War 2. I think it was better than the first one, but better than the first and better than the third one. I think the third one just lost it somewhere along the lines, just didn't click with me. We all know what Gears of War is. I'm sad to hear that they're still going to be milking the franchise even more. They should have just left it there at Gears of War 3, which concluded the main story. But you know, it's like when they've got a cash cow on the go, then milk it within an inch of its life, don't they? But yeah, Gears of War 2 is my pick on the Xbox 360. And that's my 15 favourite games on 15 consoles that I've actually owned. So I hope you enjoyed that list, and thank you very much for watching.